This week, Chad Bilyeu talks about his comic series, Chad in Amsterdam. He talks about what it's like living in Amsterdam, how he puts together his comic, and what's coming up next from him. First, help us reach our goal to unlock a new podcast about the manga Fullmetal Alchemist, The Law of Equivalent Exchange. It's a chapter-by-chapter reading of the manga, with commentary on the translation, including the sound effects, and on how creator Hiromu Arakawa masterfully put together the story of Edward and Alphonse Elric. Patrick and I have already started recording the show, and we can't wait for you to hear it. If you're a fan of Fullmetal Alchemist, one of the best manga of the 21st century, pledge now at patreon.com/deconcomics to hear The Law of Equivalent Exchange. This is Tim, and this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo. Chad Bilyeu's Chad in Amsterdam series has been a favorite of ours on our Critiquing Comics spinoff show. Recently, I got him on Skype and finally talked to the man in person. Here's our conversation. Okay, so I am talking with Chad Bilyeu in Amsterdam. How are you?
Yeah, life is really good. Thank you, man. And
okay.
Yourself?
Pretty good. How is the COVID situation there?
Good question. It's definitely there are a good amount of cases. They're not handling it like as well as Germany or something like that. But we're also not as bad as Italy or Spain is at the moment. So actually in the city of Amsterdam, I think you're working at like a 1/100% type of people have caught it. So it's relatively cool, probably far more lax than the States. We don't have to wear face masks in public. I think social distancing is done, actually. So over here, so we'll see. Maybe the second wave is coming. I don't know. I'm trying to play it safe, but I like a little fun too. So we'll see. Hopefully I don't catch it.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about yourself, where you're from, and how you ended up in Amsterdam.
Damn. Well, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, mostly. This is mostly where I grew up. Stayed in Cleveland like 23 years of my life. Ended up going to D.C. for 10 years, where I did a lot of stuff, but ended up graduating out of Georgetown. And I got tired of... just a little tired of D.C. Not that it's a bad place, just needed a change. So I went ahead and went back home for a bit and then ended up in Amsterdam because I studied. I kind of, similar thing as to you. I didn't have the lady, but I went, did a 1 year. We did a 1 year master's degree, which I didn't finish at the University of Amsterdam. But for me, it was really just more a means to get over here because I had been visiting a lot in the Audis. I visited, I believe, 5 different occasions throughout the Audis. So I kind of already knew the city a bit. I liked it. I knew I liked it. So I came and I attended school. The plan was to be here a year. And as you said, here we are
Sounds
working
familiar.
on the 11th year. So it's hard to plan. So that's how it went down for me, quite honestly.
Okay. Now, are comics much of a thing in Holland?
Yes. It's oddly they are, but they don't have I would say that the regular folks, the laymen don't love it like they love it in France or maybe even, I think, Denmark has a pretty big comic scene, in Spain, and of course the UK. I was always familiar with the UK growing up in the States. But so they have a lot of really great artists here. There's one guy, if your listeners want to check out, is a guy named Peter Pontiac. Just fantastic art. And it's just the sort of thing that you're like, why did we not see this over here? So there is a big comic scene. I mean, shout out to my man T-Pex. He did a biography of Rembrandt, and he just did one of Andy Warhol. And fantastic, beautiful. My man, Hito Fandril, Maya Matches. There's tons of people. There's talent over here. It's just, a lot of times there's this, uh, the language is an issue. I actually said this like on Facebook, and I'm like, you guys got some heat, but it's all in Dutch, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, most people don't speak Dutch, so it's like a pocket universe. So it's really it's like an underappreciated world, and maybe that was part of the reason I was able to get in it. Because it's not like I used to do music related things too, and that's just it's a more competitive world, the music world. But the comic world, people are cool. Everyone seems to get along for the most part. Everybody's nice. We have a Friday happy hour at the store out here, Lambiek. So you go to Lambiek, you'll see on Friday you'll see a lot of the comic book people of Amsterdam at least.
Mm.
So there's a big scene. It's very local. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it sounds like no one has thought to start like translating these things like with French comics or Japanese comics. So
Yeah.
so
I
there's
guess
no
that's
awareness.
beginning. There's no awareness, and I guess that's beginning. Like again, like I said, there's some folks like there's a lady named M.A. De Jong. She has a comic called Taxi that I know has been translated and it's in English. Also, a lady named Margrethe de Heer. She does a lot of stuff like the philosophy of love or the history of philosophy. So it's like kind of factually based stuff, and it's really good. So I think it's beginning. It's just one of those things that you gotta. I don't know. Really, sometimes I think Dutch people might underestimate themselves on an international scale.
Mm.
And you know what I mean. Maybe we're American. We're all about marketing and being these vibrant personalities, and I don't. And not everyone's on that. So there's some heat. If they want to know, they can hit me on Twitter or something. I'll give them some more recommendations. But there's definitely some very good work over here and good people.
Hmm. Okay. So, growing up in Cleveland, what kind of comics did you read there?
Woo! Man, you don't know how long I've waited for someone to ask me this question. Oh, I, I grew up. I remember like the first comic I ever saw was Hot Stuff. Um,
Mm.
remember, like you got Casper, the punk ass ghost, but then you had like Hot Stuff, who was like this red devil, and that really appealed to me. Like he was a little mischievous, so I liked that. So Hot Stuff was the first comic, and then I guess probably whatever stuff little kids read. But I remember, I think the first comic that really, really like got my attention. It's Green Lantern. I think it's Green Lantern 171. It's when Hal Jordan quits, and he's in Oa, and all the Guardians are in the back, and he throws down his power ring. He's like, "I quit." And
Hmm.
something about that just really spoke to my soul. I was just like, he just said, "Fuck it" to these dudes who gave him his power, and that for me was just, I liked it. Then from there, I got into X-Men, uh, and X-Men to me still it's the paradigmatic team comic. Chris Claremont's run
Hmm.
was just phenomenal to me. And really growing up is kind of interesting. With X-Men, it was like diversity before diversity was really pushed.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, you had a powerless Storm running the team. And that to me was just really impressive because I know that's a topic nowadays, diversity and who's in the comic world.
Hmm.
And Chris Claremont just did he gave you the blueprint on how to just write, naturally diverse stories. And the mutant myth always appealed to me.
Hmm.
And then from there, a lot of comic stuff. I was pretty young. I was like 11 in the great year of '86. So I was like 11 reading Watchmen and Electra Assassin and, all this great stuff. I didn't read Mouse back then. And what else came out that year? Dark Knight,
Dark Knight.
right?
Hmm.
And so that stuff, I was like, what? And I'm 11, probably way too young to read it, and I definitely didn't understand everything, but it really just blew those titles. Yeah, maybe it's a little cliche to say, but those three just blew my mind, and then it kind of let me. I got into more indie stuff. So By the time I was like coming out of high school, man, I was just straight Vertigo mostly. A few indie guys. I really liked Bernie Muro's The Jam, and just anything I could get. I was also getting Captain Britain's. I always loved Alan Moore. So I'm a real story driven guy, character driven. And then, yeah, I don't know. Sandman Mystery Theater was a big one for me. I'm kind of an underdog supporter, being from Cleveland. So a lot of the comics I love are probably not the most famous of comics. Like, I
Mm.
definitely was. Kyle Baker inspired me a lot.
Hmm.
Why I Hate Saturn was a huge one, and his Nat Turner books. I'm looking at my bookshelf now. Um, so a lot of Vertigo, Doom Patrol was fire. Starman, James Robinson Starman, that
Hmm.
was my comic. So Justice League, America, the Giffen DeMatteis run, hilarious. So that was kind of the stuff I was into, and then I started getting more indie in the '90s, and like I'm kind of probably more inspired now by the indie stuff. But if there's a good superhero story, I'm definitely gonna check it. I'm loving Tom King's new Strange Adventures. I think that's just a great comic. So that's kind of my background, but a lot at a point early on, a lot of superhero stuff and then I moved on to the indie stuff just really spoke to me and showed me, what comics could be and not just this superhero affair. Oh, and Akira. Let me
Mm.
not
Ah,
forget
ah, ah. Hmm.
that was one that rocked my world. I guess we were in ninth grade or so when I saw the film.
Hmm.
And my friend Chuck, shout out Chuck Dookie, he was like the cartman of our crew. So he could get his dad to drive him to the comic book store and buy all of them. So he'd read one and then I'm like, all right, let me read it after you. And Akira, yeah, for me it's hard to understate the influence that Akira had. That
Hmm.
to me is that's for me that's top three. I don't know what my top three comics, but that's in it. I
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah, that I know
So yeah.
that was big for Mulele also. Mulele says hi, by the way.
Hey Mulele, what's up, brother?
So what got you started writing comics?
Yeah, that was something. I've done a lot in my life. Uh, I guess I'm like an artist, but I like to be multidisciplinary. So I used to draw when I was like in high school and when I first started university. And then when I was 23, when I moved to DC, I don't know why I just quit drawing.
Hmm.
So then after that, I gravitated towards writing more. I had a professor who told me he really liked how I wrote, and I'd never really heard that before. And he was like, "No, you have a voice," and I was like, "Oh, great!" So I got into that more, and then I also got into my photography more because I learned analog photography in high school. So I always had a affinity for that. So I was doing a lot of that, and working jobs, enjoying life, having too much fun. And so I moved to Amsterdam, and I've been over here like working on 11 years, and I always wanted to tell my story in a way. So for a time, I was like throwing art shows, which turned into throwing parties, and DJing, and I was trying to do something serious with the. I was trying to do something serious with the photography, and it just didn't really take off. Again, photography is, especially with the street photography I like to do. It's a tough world to get into, so I don't know. I'd say I had maybe 5 years into living here. No, 8 years. Pardon. I was kind of depressed.
Hmm.
Things weren't going well. Just one of those times in life, where you're really making your girlfriend mad, because you're so depressed. And I was reading American Splendor, of course, by the late great Harvey P. Carr, of course, who's
Hmm.
from Cleveland as
Cleveland,
well.
yeah.
And like really, like man, I wish he was alive. I could tell him, but he really like Harvey P. Carr. When I'm reading it, I'm like, wait, this is how I do it. And not respect to Harvey. He's not the first guy to do anything autobiographic, but he is the Godfather. And I thought, I'm from Cleveland. I'm kind of this. you know, curmudgeonly guy, kind of like him to a degree, but with a more hip hop flair. So I thought, you know what? I think this is the perfect way for me to tell my story and actually get people interested in it. You know, I could have wrote another expat book, but it just wouldn't really appeal. No one, what I'm doing, nobody does anything like this over here. I don't know about
Mm.
the rest of the comic world, but no one's doing anything like it. So I knew it would stand out, and I also used to put out music on cassettes for a while. So that taught me how to make a physical product, actual nice package. So I just put my all into it. I'm like, let me write some stories from my point of view, not the typical Amsterdam thing, because this is a city that has a reputation that precedes it. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought, well, you got to address that, but can I do it in a way that isn't so wrote, that how
Mm.
everyone else does it. So that was really it. Just reading Harvey and like this is it. Like, and I could have been reading any comic, but it was that and something just clicked and I thought, let me give it a go. And
Hmm.
here I am.
Do you think you would have started putting out a comic if you had never moved to Amsterdam?
That's a great question. These are the things I'm actually writing about that in number four. There's a
Hmm.
lot of things that I've tried since moving here. Uh, I guess sometimes when you go somewhere new, you lose your allegiance, so you don't really have a group that you belong to, and you feel
Hmm.
a certain sense of freedom to move and try things. So maybe, I also attribute I think my photography got better once I moved here because I'm in this new beautiful city. I'm seeing everything new. It makes you want to take these photos. So I guess I would have to say probably so. Yeah, if it wasn't for Amsterdam, I may not be here and enter the comic world. It's possible.
Hmm.
I might still be a fan.
Mm-hmm. You see. From doing critiquing comics with Mulele, we know how many comics artists there are out there who aren't ready for prime time. So it's kind of surprising to me that you managed to find a lot of different artists for your book who are pretty good. So how do you find them?
That's funny. Yeah. It's yeah. Well, I was lucky. Being a somewhat artistic guy, you tend to gravitate around other art folks. So a lot of the people who draw in the comic are folks who I know directly. Like my man Kim Damane, he did the cover for number one.
Hmm.
But Kim, back when we threw our party was actually called Another Bullshit Night from Cleveland, and Bullshit Night for short. And he would do the covers for us, but the covers were based off of classic comic book covers. So like our first cover is based off of Fantastic Four number one. We
Hmm.
have one cover that's based off the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, where Speedy's shooting up on the
Hmm.
cover. So we would have fun like that. So, and he's a great artist. So just kind of gravitated. My man Dotsy, I know a lot of people I worked with. I knew, and then another outlet. And I guess this is good for writers coming up. Man, just hit Instagram. Honestly,
Hmm.
and hashtag comic art or
Hmm.
illustration. And you would really be surprised, firstly, how approachable people are and a lot of folks are willing to work with you if you have if you approach them professionally and if you're paying. Don't
Hmm.
respect the artist. That's number one. Respect them. Come and like it's paid. So when I say that already, I've separated myself from the vast majority of collaborators because I
Yeah,
pay them.
the guys who want you to draw their comic and they'll pay you when they get paid, and then they never
Right.
get paid.
And they never get paid. And I think that onus should be on me as the writer to get the money back. I paid them. It's an investment. I get it back. That's how I think about it.
Hmm.
So a lot of artists online, a lot of people are friends of friends, and really just approaching folks. The internet is your friend because Instagram is just, I guess Behance is a big thing too, but I'm not really into that. But Instagram, you can find the folks and you know, people are slide in their DMs and say, "Hey, I really like your work. Would you be willing to work?" and that's worked a few times for me as well. And I got a little more brazen on my third issue. So I thought I mentioned him before. Bernie Miro was always a fan of a favorite of mine because growing up, I forgot one title, Grendel. Grendel was a very big title for me,
Okay.
and I remember he did the Brian Lee Sung 3-issue arc. And evidently, people didn't like his art, and I loved it. So I've always been a Bernie Miro fan. And then I found him on Facebook. So we had been friends for a while, and I just hit him up. I'm like, Mr. Miro, would you be willing to draw something for me? I pay. He's like, sure, sounds good. And I learned a lot from him actually working with him. And then I also got to work with Gary Dunn, who also used to illustrate for Harvey Picard. So, that was an honor. You
Okay.
know what
Oh,
I mean?
he did the fish story, didn't he? The herring story.
Yeah. Yes, precisely. So for me, that was, and actually, Gary gave me some great writing tips, which really enhanced the story. So working with him was really a great experience, and Bernie as well. And just you work with these dudes who've been in the industry 30, 40 years, and when you get feedback from them, good and bad, it's just nice. And it was good for me to be a writer and like, hey, I'm giving something to Bernie, who has drawn Matt Wagner scripts. So if he tells me I wrote a good script, like, bless, thank you, brother. So that's how I do it, man.
Hmm.
And you establish a rapport, and yeah, I work with people. I try to work with people again, but it's tough. Again, everything's out my pocket, so
Hmm.
that's why I'm only on number 3.
Do you find any artists there in Amsterdam?
Yes, quite a few actually. Um, should I? Where are my comics? There's 1,000 in the back, but my buddy Kim, who did the cover to number 1, he's Swedish, but he used to live here. So then I
Hmm.
also worked with another Swedish guy who used to work here, Dotsy, graffiti dude, and I worked with a friend of mine, Iris van der Heiden, and definitely a lot of people here. I'm trying to remember everyone who drew everything. I'm working with these two ladies. Well, pardon, Meryl Barons is a lady named Juliette DeVette who I'll be working with in my issue 4. Um, and she's typically a comic children's book artist.
Okay.
So kind of it's one of those things. Once you do it, you start meeting more people. So I would like to get way more Amsterdam folks, but I'm not opposed to working with whomever.
Hmm.
You know. Yeah.
Okay. I reread the first 3 issues today of
Oh,
Chad in Amsterdam. Uh,
okay.
well, I was trying to think of things to ask you. So in the second issue, so every issue you have this kind of continuing thing, the Dutch Inquisition, which is
Yes.
like people asking you questions about Amsterdam, basically, or about
Yeah.
yourself.
About myself. Yeah. The Dutch are naturally curious people. I'll say that, and
Hmm.
they I don't know, man. I really think about this a lot because I get asked. Well, here people are known for being direct, right? So they don't really use pleasantries. No one's going to come up to you, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm all
Hmm.
right." "Great." Da da da. No, they just, "Where are you from?" And where I'm from, if you ask somebody where you from, that can cause friction. You know what I'm saying? What you know how you know how America can be. Where are you from? What the fuck do you mean? Where am I from? Where are you? So you really got to change your mind again. I'm
Hmm.
not in Cleveland. I'm not in America. I'm not in DC. So people want to know where you're from. Why are you there? They usually think I'm on holiday, and it's an interesting question because I don't know. I tell you where I'm from and what do you know about that? I say Cleveland. Nobody over here knows shit about Cleveland. I mean, if they know anything about Cleveland, it's usually LeBron James or Bone Thugs and Harmony, and that's all they know. So I don't know. It's it's strange because it's sometimes you feel like, hey, it's just a question, and then sometimes you feel like, wait, are you trying to categorize me? Now again, that could be my own paranoia, but I'm trying to be very honest in the way that it's dealt with because I don't think people over here know how they are, you know. So we are. It's funny. You put a bunch of us, whatever you want to call it, immigrants, expats in a room, and if you have us talk, we're all going to say the same stuff. So this this idea of where are you from, people are like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm American. Look at me. I'm big as hell. I'm loud as fuck. I'm American. Like, where I'm from. Let's just ask me another question. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you
I
don't
do
say
feel
New York City or Los Angeles, they'll say, "Where's that?" Right? So,
right, and that's the thing too. Like New York, really, if you say, "Oh, I'm a New Yorker," that really carries a lot of weight. Saying you're from Cleveland doesn't do anything for me. You
mm-hmm.
understand? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I used to live in D.C. It was a very diverse place. And sometimes I'm confused why people are so hung up on where am I from. And I don't know, man. I just put it in there because I thought this happens a lot, and I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if this happens in other places or if it happens here to other
Mm.
people. Again, maybe I kind of look like a cartoon character, bear type of guy. So yeah, I get it. It just sometimes it's annoying.
Yeah. Now, the one in the second issue though was with your friend Mike, who looks like Tupac.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he was asking you about the experience of living in Amsterdam,
Right.
and you said something there about the humor ain't funny in Holland, and there was another story also where you mentioned that you miss the humor in the U.S. So I was wondering, what
I
is
feel
Dutch humor like?
a lot of shit and piss dick jokes. It's like real. It's not. They're not funny. Like there's funny people here, and people get mad at me for saying this, but if anything, they know I'm honest. They're not like witty. It's a high context. It's a low context culture. So the message is the message. You understand?
Hmm.
There's no parable wrapped up in a rapper. This is the price. This is a nation of traders.
Mm-hmm.
The message is the message. So a lot of times I think like innuendo and sarcasm, they're not going to agree with me. But I just feel wittier than the whole country. I know that's terrible to say, but that's how I feel. I've never been outwitted here. And if it was someone who can't outwit me, that we usually become friends. So I have a certain banter. There's funny people for sure. I was also trying to kind of rile feathers a bit, or just poke, just to test because again, it's a great country. Don't get me wrong, but like a lot of the foreigners, the expats, they're very doting in what they say, and they don't want to publicly ever critique. And I was like, I'm gonna be the only guy to really do this. Like, and at least I'm being honest. And I don't want to make it seem like I hate the folks or nothing, but we all have our issues. We have our issues too. And I'll be yeah. I know when you go home, you're like, oh my God, can I just eat my meal? No, I don't want anything else. So America, we all got it. That's just I'm over here, and I noticed it. So I was kind of really trying to be very honest with how I saw it and put it out early so that people are like, oh, okay, this is where the guy's coming from. So if you read it and you're offended, you probably shouldn't read anything else. I didn't want to trick the reader. I wanted to let them know, yes, there's some stuff I don't like. And because no one really talks about that, especially, I mean, this is a world, if you're a foreigner, man, you don't get in the media out here. You understand? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be on TV. You're not going to be up for awards.
Mm-hmm.
That's all relegated for Dutch people. So, I'm like, well, it's kind of a freedom because I can say what I want. And I think the people who know me and read the book and know me over here and read it over here, they know, okay, well, this guy's being honest. And I think no matter, as long as you don't dwell in hate, people can accept your honesty. You got to show the love too, but I'm from Cleveland, man. Shit's fucked up there. It taught me how to be honest about a situation. So that was my thought process with that.
Mm, okay. Yeah. Now, Chad in Amsterdam is one of the few comics I've seen that has end notes. There'll be something in the back explaining, like on this page, that what I said here was referring to this or that.
Yeah.
And in one of them, I didn't put down which issue it was. You talk about how Holland is more concerned than some other European countries with whether a person belongs to the local culture or another culture, which sounds a little bit like Japan in some ways. But is that kind of a subconscious thing for Dutch people, or something they're really aware of in themselves?
I don't know. It's always hard to figure out the inner workings of a whole group of people, So I think though, because this is, I mean, you got to give them their props. It's a historically tolerant country to a degree that has had a lot of relations with the rest of the world, some good, some bad. But if nothing else, they're used to dealing with other people. So maybe they're coming from this viewpoint or from this vantage point that, hey, we know a lot about different sorts of people. So if I find out, hey, you're Italian, well, I kind of have a solution set to work with, with you as a person. And whereas I do understand that, I'm more of the mind that I don't know you. I'm not going to underestimate or assume anything, because that only puts myself at a disadvantage. So I like to just kind of wait and see what happens. And I don't know. I also like to make people feel comfortable. So I'm not going to go, hey, where are you from? What are you doing? Da, da, da. That's just not such an interesting line of questioning for me. I'd rather ask someone, what superpower do they want, So,
okay, what superpower do you want?
Teleportation all day. No question about it.
Why teleportation?
Because I could get around, man. We could have been doing this interview at your house, socially distanced. I could have zapped back to Cleveland and got some corned beef. You know what I mean? Zap over to, I love to travel, and I hate airports, so that would just be perfect for me. Take me and my girl wherever we need to go.
Yeah, well, and especially now. I mean, I would be afraid to fly right now. It would be probably so much COVID flying around.
Yes, I agree. I'm not going nowhere. We're going on a road trip next week, and I don't know. This year's done, man. I'm looking forward to 21, and hopefully I can do like festivals and stuff again. We'll see.
Yeah. Coming up, Chad names some of the best and worst things about living in Amsterdam. Chad's process from brainstorming to working with artists to printing, and more. Support us on Patreon. You'll help cover expenses of making the show and move us toward unlocking the earliest episodes of Deconstructing Comics and a new podcast series about the manga Full Metal Alchemist. You'll also be supporting our To the Bat Poles podcast. Just go to patreon.com/deconcomics and make your monthly pledge. If you pledge at least $4 a month, you'll get access to all of our bonus podcasts, reviewing the first year of Amazing Spider-Man and all of the MCU and Spider-Man films. And coming soon, a review of the Amazon Prime show, The Boys. It's all at patreon.com/deconcomics. We thank you for your support.
Are you Batman? Oh, you must be, because that's Robin. Hi, Robin.
Yes, Batman and Robin are here, and Tim and Paul are also here to evaluate the Batman TV show that took the nation by storm in 1966.
How in the name of purple wombats did they manage that?
To the Bat Poles podcast looks at the writing, the music, the guest stars, how the show fit into its times, and much more. Look for it wherever you get podcasts or at tothebatpoles.libsyn.com. Why, listening to the Bat Poles even makes Season 3 enjoyable.
Gosh, yes, Batman. When you put it that way.
So, what are the best and worst things about living there?
The best things and the worst things about living in Amsterdam. Let's see. One of the worst things is the weather. People often, this will probably, people love when I say here, they're like, oh, why'd you move here? And I'm like, the weather. It's an easy, cheap laugh. Because the weather's shit. It rains like 51% of the year. So, we're really 40 to 60 degrees is our area. The weather sucks. One of the best things I would say is the bike culture, man. Like, I come from, we're from the States, and you get a truck, or you get your whip. I own like 6 cars in 15 years, so which is ridiculous. But I come here, you just get a bike, you get a bike lock. The city is your oyster. The country, really. I mean, they have bike lanes that link the entire country, and it's just so orderly. And I think that's one thing that Dutch people are excellent at. Working together and creating systems. Jesus, if you got a squad of Dutch people with time to plan something, they're going to do incredible shit. Under pressure, ad hoc, they're not great. And I say this as a former AV technician. They're planners. So the bike path is fantastic. Food's good. It's very diverse, which actually was a shock to me. I think I mentioned that in the comic with Tupac Mike too. And there's more ethnicities here than in New York City or London, And
yeah, you mentioned that in the comic too. That is surprising.
It is surprising. I don't know. There's a whole nother conversation of whether it's as inclusive as those cities. I don't think it is, but it's still nice to be. I'm a product of diversity, and I just like all types of people and food and culture and languages. So that to me is amazing, just to have, friends from Chile or from Finland or, Nigeria. I love that. So I'd say that it's expensive. I guess that's a bad point. And it's only getting more and more expensive. So that won't be going anywhere. I think once you really start to understand how Dutch people are, you really get into some good conversations. But they're fucking direct. So you really you'll be shocked. Because I know I've been to Tokyo. And the Japanese, from what I can see, are polite as fuck.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Like, oh my God, you are so. I got into a bow battle with somebody, and I was like, I should have done this, man. Like, but people, the directness. I don't think no one there would be so direct as the Dutch are. It's like, I got a question, I want to say it. I got an opinion, I want to say it. And you have the same right too. You're probably not used to someone coming at you like, blah, blah, and that's kind of how they do. So it's really weird, because it's really like you could stay in an expat bubble here, and I guess that's another bad thing, the expat bubble or the bubbles of the city. So many people are in various bubbles, and I just saw an opportunity to not be in a bubble. So I guess those are kind of. But that bike life, of course, I got to tell you. I mean, you're gonna come in, you want to smoke some weed too, man. The herb is good, So that's another good thing, and. Hey, pretty ladies, if you like tall women or tall men, this is your spot. It's nice. Like, it's nice. And, and this is also a double-edged sword. English. Everyone here has excellent English acumen. It actually fucks me up because my Dutch is terrible. And so that's a lot of the stuff I like. And it's just beautiful. I don't even know. It honestly may be the most aesthetic pleasing city I've ever seen. It really is gorgeous. They did an incredible job. So there's lots of art, lots of stuff to do for various tastes, whether it's opulent or underground. You can do a lot over here. Yeah.
Okay. Now you're been working on your 4th issue. I'm wondering, what's your process of like putting an issue together and then getting it printed?
Okay, another good question. I have a book where I write down ideas, of course. So if I think of something, I'm a notorious note taker. So I get an idea, and then I don't know. I kind of look at them all. Sometimes you're just inspired to write a story, so I go for it. There's not like a lot. I guess I'm just trying to come up with stories that aren't so much like each other. I don't know if I should succeed in that, but I'm doing my best, So I try to say, okay, here's a take on something. So I get a few stories together or ideas. Then I start looking at the artists, and I talk to them, and I see who's down to work with me. So if I can meet with the artists, we'll meet, have a coffee or a wine or something, and just get to know each other. And I really talk to them because, especially if you're over here, we might have a shared experience or shared interest. So I try to, I don't want to make an artist draw something they don't want to draw. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think that's hell. I want them to have fun. So I was there's a lady. She is a fellow She's a fellow expat. She's from Texas. Rachel Meyer, this wonderful illustrator, and I first saw her work because she did this. We have a ferry over here, and she did this project called Faces on the Ferry, and it was just really nice. So I reached out to her. She's a sweetheart, and she's over here married, has a kid, and we met up and like, what could we do? What could we do? And I ran off a bunch of stories, some drug related, some Dutch Inquisitions or whatever. And then I was like, but I was also thinking of doing this new series, which will probably be a series like the Dutch Inquisition. And I mean, you can relate. You're over there. What do we do? We phoned home, man, like ET. So I was like, I'm doing a new series where I'm like talking to my folks back home. So it's the first one. I had to do it with the person I love the most on this planet, who is my dear mother. So my mother will be in the comic for number 4. When I said that to Rachel, she was like, I want to draw your mom. And I'm like, okay, cool. There you go. So I try to find that common ground. Then I go and I write the script. I don't have a lot of scripts just laying around. I'm working on something else. Maybe we can talk about that later. But I usually, when I get the idea, the artist says yes, boom, then I go write the script. Now, depending on my energy, that could take anywhere from 2 days to a month to do. It really depends. Some scripts just pow, and others it becomes an arduous process. So I write it.
How much instruction do you give the artist in the script? I mean, are you like Alan Moore and explaining everything in detail, or just kind of giving a 1-sentence description?
I throw a 500-page big number script on your desk. Like, no, I think there's a medium, healthy medium in doing that because you don't want to be overbearing. I've seen Alan Moore's scripts because when I started this, and anyone else who wants to write, there's tons of scripts online that you can go and download, and that's really a great starting point. So I saw Alan Moore's stuff, and I'm like, wow, he might as well just wrote a book, homie. But I think you do. I mean, for me, it's like being a director. You got an artist, and you want them to shine. So I used to make beats for hip hop, and there was this one drum machine called the SP-12000. And it was very interesting because you only had 10 seconds of sampling time, right? So when you're given these restrictions, sometimes you can do so much more within the restrictions. So my point being is I tell people everything I feel is pertinent for that scene. And I tell them, omit what you will. But I think as a writer, because it is easier to write comics than it is to draw. I don't care what anyone says. It is. It is.
Yeah.
So I feel, knowing that, you need to give the artist a document that shows that you too are invested in this. So I give fairly detailed scripts just so that the artist has parameters, and I feel if you have parameters, then you can you start to play within the parameters, and then the artistry comes out. I think, if that makes sense. So I give a little direction for sure. Certain people, there's certain ones that I've definitely said, hey, this is the layout. 6-panel pages, 9-panel pages, boom. And other folks, I kind of can just tell them, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'll describe what needs to happen on the page, and you can make that up yourself. So it really depends. Some people, a lot of the people I've worked with too aren't actually comic artists. So in the event that they're not a comic artist, I will give more direction. But ultimately, I tell the artists they're in charge of how it looks, and I'm in charge of dialogue and plot. So I've really never had a big problem with anyone who's like, you're giving me too much.
Mm.
But it's a collaborative process. So I got to bring, what I got to bring to the table, and I probably give too much. But I think it's better to give too much than to give too little and then be dissatisfied when you get the
Mm.
result.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing, hey, this has to be here. This has to be here. I also provide a lot of photos because stuff has to be accurate. Because if you're looking at something in my comic, it looks like what it looks like over here, and that's kind of it. I don't care. They can make me look attractive or fat or whatever. I don't care about that. I just want the city and the story and the flow to be right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, we get the art. That's the nice part because usually I write something, I kind of just put it out my mind. So when the story comes back, it's like new. So that's always fantastic. Then we do a little editing. I edit all the stories and any changes. So then I got all these files, and then I put everything together myself in InDesign.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, and then my printer is over here. Shout out Drupal IT, and they're great. And I think also if you're gonna do comics, man, get a local printer. Like it's better for the economy. It's good for everyone involved. Also, you have a better rapport. Like I understand if you get it printed in India or China, it's cheaper. Dude, it's on a ship for 3 months. You don't know what could happen. If
Mm-hmm.
there's anything wrong, so I say get a local printer. Boom, we go to local printer. Then I come out with I print 2,000 copies, which is way too much, but it makes it economically viable. But I'm almost sold out of issue one, so something works.
Okay.
Um, then I always do a release party at my good friends over here at Lambic, which is the oldest operating comic book store in the world. And yeah, we sell some issues and have a good time. And then I do my, because I do everything, you got to have your, press. Boom, let me mail it to Deconstructing Comics, and I mail it to tons of people. And
Mm-hmm.
you get two or three responses, but it's all good. It comes. You got to be patient. So that's how I put it together from start to finish, and then I do most of my own distribution as well. So you'll see me walking around town with a big ass box full of comics, hitting up all the places where I sell, and then I do festivals too. But unfortunately, in our reality, we can't do that right now. But the festivals are great. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is that's because I think what I'm doing, I think it works outside of Amsterdam as well. Because it's a cool city. People are into Amsterdam. There's also this new emergence of the global citizen. It can appeal to a lot of folks. So part of my mission is okay. Now let's get it around. So whenever we're kind of mobile, I'm gonna go to the UK and do my UK tour. And
Mm-hmm.
everything. I set everything up myself, and that I guess I got a lot of skills from doing parties and art shows that teaches you how to do that. So yeah, really, man, it's other than the art I do and the printing of it, I do everything. So I do a lot. I understand I'm just a writer, but I'm doing more than just writing.
I see. So you have some writers in Holland, or sorry, you have some readers in Holland and some readers in the UK and of course in the US. Anywhere else?
I sell okay in Berlin. Berlin is kind of like my second home over here.
Hmm.
I've been there a lot, and I one day I really want a Chad in Berlin one shot. It'll happen. And so Berlin, I do pretty good sales in Berlin. I was actually shocked. Seattle liked me.
Mm-hmm.
Boston liked me a bit. Um, New York was cool. They showed me love. Portland showed a bit of love. Toronto showed mad love. I sold a lot of comics in Toronto at TCAF, and then I got
Mm-hmm.
around to the stores. So that was really nice. And I guess those are like, and of course Amsterdam. I haven't really, and like I said, I haven't been to UK to really promote it as well. But those are kind of my mainstay cities. I think where I'm. In Cleveland.
Okay,
Let me
sure.
not forget. Yeah, home. Like I go home and I can have a book event, and I'm lucky because I really kept a lot of my a lot of the connections in Cleveland. I still got it, so I go home, man, and I just feel like a special guest. So that's a good thing too. I sell a lot of comics at home as well. So, but they're everywhere, man. Wherever I've been, I left comics somewhere. And they're in Brussels and fucking Reykjavik,
Mm.
everywhere. And like, I really, and I like this end of it because it's like it's up to me to hustle the book, you know.
Hmm.
And I like that. I love having that hands-on power. And just go into a store, you make the connections with people. I mean, sure, it'd be great to have a publisher and whatnot, man, but I couldn't see doing this any other way, you know.
Hmm.
You know.
Sure. So, besides the comics debut of your mom, what can we look forward to at issue 4?
Issue 4. So yeah, my mother's in it. My mom's a cool lady, so she's pretty funny. And everything. Just so folks will know, I actually would just talk to her, on the phone like we're doing, and I recorded all the conversations. She didn't even know. So all of this is actually spliced together from pretty much real dialogue.
Mm.
And then there's a lady, my friend Lara. She's the Russian lady, Ryazantseva, whatever the hell her last name is. And she drew the cover to number 2. So I wanted to work with her on something, and I'm doing a story with her. It's like a Dutch Inquisition, and I kind of delve into this question: where are you from, and what it really means, and what it means across these 3 cities that I've lived in, as applied to me. So we're doing that, and then I got a strip club story because the aforementioned lady, Juliette DeWitt, the children's book illustrator, we met at a book fair here, and I guess she had heard of me. And I wanted to work with you, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like this 60-year-old Dutch lady wants to work with me. So I saw her work, and it's just really clean, nice, and it does have this children's feel. And she's like, I want to do something sexy and violent. And I'm like, oh, sexy and violent. You came to the right guy, babe. So we were really thinking. I'm like, well, I got one strip club story that isn't your typical strip club story. Now, like I said, I'm really, I don't know. I just see shit different. So I try not to do the same thing that everyone's doing. So it's definitely in a strip club, but hopefully it's still from a cultural comparative viewpoint. So those are the 3 stories. Got a great cover. I'm doing the back cover this time. And then also my issue 5 is nearly done. So
wow.
I expect 2 issues from me this year.
Yikes,
So
okay.
Yeah, because I took such a long break, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do 2. So I got 2 in the bag, and then I'll work on 6. Number 5 will be a good one. My 5th issue will be good because I finally get to talk about Santa Claus. We have a holiday over here that causes a bit of, calamity. Yeah.
Okay, and then you said you were working on something else too. What else are you doing?
Yeah, I got an idea because I remember listening to y'all podcast and think, I just real quick, I want to give you guys say thank you. You guys really give good critiques, and I can tell that you're really reading. Like you really give a fuck about the process and what's in there and what someone's really trying to say. You guys were totally right about that Dutch Inquisition, and like this guy straight up repeated himself in the story. And I read it. I'm like, oh my God, they're so right. How the fuck did I do this? But pardon the question again.
Your other project that you're working on besides in Amsterdam?
Well, it's gonna be superpower related because just to go back to that, that just being a kid and loving superpowers. So I really want to do something with superheroes, but again, not your normal thing. I really always love sitcoms. So something along that line, but with a superpowered couple. We'll say that.
Okay.
And I guess and it's in the conceptual stage. I actually think I got a guy who would be a great artist who I've worked with on issue 5 as well. You'll see his work. His name is Danny Modesto Rodriguez. Hopefully I can get him to draw it. We'll see. But I just really want to deal with the hero's journey after the hero's journey.
Okay.
You know? And something along the lines of that, and just, I don't know, living for yourself versus living for everybody else. And just, in the world of superheroes, but with a little humor, of course, and kind of fun. So that's what I'm working on. And there's a few other things. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know how you are, but I have like too many ideas, and then I only got so much time to execute them. So this one, I think people might like. I like it. So I'm kind of making my own little superhero world of sorts at the moment.
Okay.
And then hopefully like a year and a half from now, I can send you something, because I'm really excited about it. And it's just something that really, when I think about it, my mind just goes in all the directions.
Okay.
But
so
it'll touch on superpowers.
This will be the Chad verse then, right?
Yeah, kind of like that. And it'll be small. Like, I don't want to get too big, I think sometimes just, work within your means. I'm not trying to do my Jonathan Hickman or nothing, who I think I liked what he did in X-Men. Too many titles. I couldn't read it all, but it got a little much. But I like the take. But this shit will be probably more influenced by Justice League, old Justice League type of stuff, where I'm trying to have a little bit more humor or weird, quirky, awkward stuff. I like that. So that maybe. I'm trying to draw some more too, so I'll probably do some submissions for some anthologies. I know, so maybe in the future I can be in some of these things. But that's kind of what I got planned, and then keep doing Chad in Amsterdam since until they kick me out the country at least, and and that's kind of what's on board. But something new, because I remember you guys said, "Hey, we wonder what this guy would do if it was something fictional." So that was very inspirational to me. And I was like, "Hey, well,
great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, looking forward to seeing new work from you then.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting it to you. So, yeah, near the end of August, a little earlier, expect an issue. And hope you guys enjoy it. And if not, I got number 5 coming.
Okay.
Right,
cool. Must be something there we'll like.
Indeed, brother. Indeed.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work.
Check out Chad's work at chadinamsterdam.nl. Want to support this podcast? You can help us out by joining us on Patreon. Your monthly support can help to unlock more classic episodes of Deconstructing Comics and our new podcast about the manga Fullmetal Alchemist. Go to patreon.com/deconcomics for more details. You can also review us on Apple or any other podcast source. Do your shopping at deconstructingcomics.com/Amazon so that we get a percentage of the sale. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. Increasing our numbers of subscribers helps us a lot, and you'll get our episodes automatically every week. We also hope you'll share your favorite DCP episodes on your social media. We appreciate your support in bringing Deconstructing Comics, Critiquing Comics, and To the Bat Poles to a larger audience. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. If you're looking for some constructive feedback on your comic, send it to us and Mulele and I will critique it on our spin-off podcast, Critiquing Comics. Send it to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We'll read at least 30 pages of it and critique it on the show. Next week on Deconstructing Comics, Kumar, Emmett, and Dana discuss Providence by Alan Moore and Jason Burrows. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.